As of this moment, you can now have multiple characters on the same account in New World, and that could have some interesting implications for the market, as well as possibly wars, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Somebody will let me know in the comments, I'm sure. But let me jump into the news, then we'll talk about it. So, out of the blue, Amazon have posted this tonight. It says today as of 11 PM, which I pretty much as the time of recording is right now, I think. They are removing the restrictions on the number of characters a player can have on each server. Basically, you can now have multiple characters on the same account on the same server. And then they say some examples of the things that you can do. You can create multiple characters on one server. Yeah, makes sense. You can transfer from fresh start servers to a world where you already have a character, which I imagine is actually what a lot of people are going to be doing. For those of you who played on fresh start, maybe you did the event, know that character's not really doing anything for you, you might transfer them to the legacy server that you're on. That would make sense. Now, they're not removing the restriction on the max number of characters, so you can still only have 3. Obviously, I think that's just going to be like a limitation, otherwise you could have like literally hundreds, I guess. Now, this does achieve the effect that it will be flexible, but I'm a little bit concerned for a couple of different reasons. There's some actual massive advantages to having multiple characters if you can be bothered leveling it, and leveling now doesn't take all that long. And you actually get gold leveling up as well, so that could be not a great money maker, but could be interesting if that's something you want to do. But there's a couple of interesting things there. You could do more mutated runs if you're like into that. You could literally now just level up a level 60, get the ward gear, do some more mutated runs. If you're using that to try and make gold from the drops, then it makes sense. If you're using it for shards, I don't necessarily know why you would. And there's the obvious one that you will now be able to do most of the cooldowns. Now maybe they're just going to like slow down the impact of the daily cooldowns. Maybe they're actually going to remove it being a cooldown. In theory now, if you have the right smelting or whatever, you can go on and just pump out some cooldowns, which might lower the cost of like Asmodeum and stuff like that. I did make a video about how the price of those was probably going to drop because of the armor fragments and stuff like that. They've gone back up in price. I'm not 100% sure why, because there's so much gear still coming from Outpost Rush that you can get the legendary, but they have sort of redone the Humble Shard amount. I don't know. I would have thought that they would have kept going down. I was wrong. But obviously cooldowns, that could be less of an issue for you. There's another advantage that you might want to take advantage of, and that is simply storage. Not only can you effectively like just store stuff by using the trading post, and the main thing you're going to want to do there is by creating buy orders that are really low value for a random item, and then you just fill them. Now the problem is if multiple people are doing that, you might not know which are yours. I'm not sure you can identify who's it coming from or what have you. But yeah, there's going to be some tricksy people out there doing some tricksy things that I don't really comprehend. But there's more news than just this. There's an issue with resetting gear sets. So we're aware of an issue that may cause items in gear sets to be unequipped on a relog. We applied a temporary mitigation to prevent gear sets from being unequipped while we investigate this. Now I'm guessing that means you can still swap between gear sets, otherwise it completely makes gear sets completely useless. But just be aware, if you notice some functionality that has been diminished when it comes to gear sets, it's because of this issue. Obviously they'll fix it as soon as they can. I want to take this moment to sort of correct my last video. Basically I got a bit excited and I was like, hey, there's some quiet areas on the map that's where you're going to want to farm the Springtide event. Honestly, you do want to find an area where people aren't just mass farming it because it's an absolute massive pain in the backside. But here's a map of all the spawns. Just try and find an area where there's not that many people there, and it doesn't really matter how many they are, as long as you can put on the food and farm it. The food is working, by the way. I think the last 5 minutes of it I did see that might be bugged, but don't worry about that too much. And you can see there's some areas like Morningdale's a good shout, in between Weaver's Fen and Messless Shore, the top of Weaver's Fen, like First Light right down here, that could be a decent spot. Cutlass Keys. You go to a quiet area, you can probably farm them. If you go to a big area which is just outside one of the 4 main points, then it's going to be busy. Anyway, that's been plaguing my mind. I just wanted to like get that out there. So yeah, multiple characters on the same server, it might have implications that I can't think of right now, but it's definitely something worth knowing. If you've got the mats for those cooldowns and you're like burning through them and you're always like, I just have the cooldown, it's the cooldown's the thing that's slowing me down, well, maybe this is the solution for you. If you already have a character that you're not using, bring them over. A bit of me now just realised that Amazon will make money from this, so maybe that's why they've done it. But what I think they're probably going to do is tone down the reasons to have multiple characters on a server. I think, is the war cooldown per character or per account? I think it's per account, isn't it? It's per account per server. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But I suspect they'll tone down the need for it. Like they may reduce the amount of mutation, like they may remove the mutation cap or something. But quick little update for you. Big shout out to my YouTube members and Patreons and stuff like that. However, if you want to come and support me and follow me for free on Twitch, please go ahead and do so. It's just great times. You cannot deny how good of a time it is until you come ahead and watch. What you should definitely do though is have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.